You've definitely heard the name, right? The dark web. It sounds kind of spooky, like something straight out of a spy movie, a secret digital underworld. But what is it actually? Is it really just a place for criminals, or is there more to it? Well, over the next few minutes, we're going to pull back that curtain and unpack what's really going on in this mysterious corner of the internet. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at what's beyond the regular internet we all use. Then we'll dive into the underground economy that's sprung up there. After that, we'll talk about what happens when these places get shut down. A dark ending, you could say. And finally, we'll get into the big debate, the privacy dilemma. All right, Section 1, Beyond the Surface Web. So to really get a handle on the dark web, the first thing you have to wrap your head around is that the internet, it's just way, way bigger than anything you can find on Google. And this image here from Argonne National Laboratory, it's honestly the best way to picture it. The whole internet is like a giant iceberg. The part sticking out of the water, the tip, that's the surface web. It's everything you can find with a search engine. You know, news sites, your social media feeds, blogs, all that stuff. But underneath the water, that's where most of the internet is. That's the deep web. We're talking about things like your online banking, your company's internal network, university databases. Nothing scary, right? They're just private and not meant to be public. And then, way down at the very, very bottom, there's this tiny, intentionally hidden piece. And that is the dark web. So what's the big deal? What makes the dark web, well, dark? It all comes down to the technology. The Rand Corporation puts it perfectly. This part of the internet is literally built to be anonymous. It uses all these layers of encryption and special tools, like the Tor browser, to hide who you are and where you are. The whole point is to make it nearly impossible for anyone to track what you're doing. Okay, Section 2, the underground economy. Now, all that anonymity we just talked about, it created the perfect conditions for a huge underground economy to pop up. But that raises a big question, right? If everybody is anonymous, how in the world do you trust anyone enough to buy or sell something? How do these places even work? Well, it turns out there's a kind of three-legged stool that makes it all stand up. First, you've got the tech, like Tor, that hides who everyone is. That's like number one. Second, you need a way to pay for stuff that can't be easily traced. And that, of course, is where cryptocurrency comes in. But the third leg is the real genius part: trust. How do you solve for that? They basically copied the real world and built their own reputation systems, with seller ratings and customer reviews. And this is the part that might blow your mind. These hidden marketplaces, they look and feel a lot like websites you and I use all the time. I mean, the Rand Corporation says it right here. They're basically just like eBay or Amazon. Seriously. Sellers have these little online storefronts, you can scroll through reviews from other buyers, and they even have escrow systems that hold the money until you confirm you got what you paid for. It's a whole system of trust designed for a place where you can't trust anyone. Okay, Section 3, a dark ending. Now, as you can imagine, these marketplaces don't exactly have a long shelf life. They're always being targeted by law enforcement, by rival groups. They can literally disappear overnight. So the question is, what happens when they just vanish? So, you probably think the number one reason these places shut down is a big, dramatic police raid, right? Like in the movies? But check this out. Research from the University of Kent shows that's not really the case. The most common reason, by a long shot, is something called an exit scam. That's almost half of all closures. An exit scam is basically when the anonymous people running the site just decide to pull the plug, shut everything down, and take off with all the money being held for transactions. The big law enforcement takedowns we hear about, that's only about 23% of the time. So what about all the buyers and sellers when their favorite market suddenly goes poof? Do they just give up? Not even close. Research shows they just move. They find the next big marketplace and set up shop there. It really is like a game of whack-a-mole for law enforcement. You shut one down, and another one immediately pops up to take its place. It just goes to show you how incredibly tough and resilient this whole ecosystem really is. All right, last section, and this one's a big one: the privacy dilemma. This resilience we're talking about, it brings us to the absolute heart of the issue with the dark web. Because the exact same technology that makes all these criminal markets possible is also used for things that are, well, not just good, but sometimes totally essential. And that creates a massive, massive dilemma. This is really the core paradox, the two sides of the same coin. On one side, that anonymity we've been talking about is an absolute lifeline for people like journalists, activists, and whistleblowers living under oppressive governments. It gives them a way to communicate and share information without being found. But on the other side, that exact same shield of anonymity is what makes it a perfect hub for crime, for selling drugs, stolen data, you name it. It's the same tool, just used for completely different and opposing reasons. And as you can imagine, this whole situation creates a nightmare for law enforcement. I mean, a RAND report lays out just how tough it is. They're facing huge hurdles everywhere they turn. You've got a lack of training, the insane difficulty of trying to trace someone who's anonymous, legal problems when suspects are in different countries. Even just getting evidence off an encrypted computer is a huge challenge. It's like they're in this constant uphill battle against technology that changes every single day. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one really tough question. The technology itself isn't good or bad. It's just a tool, but it forces us as a society to face a really difficult trade-off. How do you protect something as important as the right to privacy, which is, essential for a free society, without also handing criminals the perfect tool to hide their activities? There's no simple answer here, but it's a question that's only going to get more important as our lives get more and more digital.